Hey everybody, got our girl Sarah Rogo is back. Welcome back home.
Thank you.
And she's been out doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to tell you a little story about this guitar, but I'm going to let Sarah play it a little bit first because there's some very special DNA on this guitar. Although Lemmo came over here with a guilty face and he played it a minute ago, so now his DNA is on it.
Weird.
I didn't do it, Lemmo, so, but let's hear a little bit.
One of the tastiest guitars that I've ever felt.
All right, so this guitar is an ES-225, and what's kind of special about it, Sarah, she's been out on the road. She was on the Joe Bonamassa Blues Cruise. She was in Bali, and she was also opening for Jimmy Vaughn. And I don't know Jimmy real well, but I've met him a couple times in my old store. And one time I met him at a recording session for Bob Dylan. And Bob invited me down to this session. And it was Bob, Don Was produced it, Kenny Aronoff, David Lindley, and both Vaughn brothers, Jimmy and Stevie Ray Vaughan. And so I was down at the session, and Bob had previously called me and said, Norm, could you bring some guitars to the session for me to use? And it seemed like he had everything kind of mapped out. And he said, yeah, I'd like, like maybe a Gretsch, sort of like Brian Setzer, and a little parlor guitar, and a big blonde jazz guitar. And it seemed like he had everything planned out where he was going to use one guitar for each tune. Anyhow, in Bob's own inimitable way, he came to the session, and he played piano on almost the entire session. So the reason I brought this guitar out is, in 2017, I loaned Bob this guitar, and Bob has played almost no guitar in the last 5 years live. This is something special he was doing at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York on June 4th, 2017. And so I loaned him this guitar, and his manager, Jeff, is a buddy of mine. He said, look, could you do me a favor? We want the guitar to stay and play in tune. So we actually took the original tailpiece off and put a tune-o-matic bridge in this tailpiece so that you could intonate every string here. So we wanted to make it so it would be kind of gig-worthy for Bob. So Bob used it on that gig, and then they actually wanted to buy the guitar from me, but I figured since the agreement was a loan, I said, no, it's not for sale, because now I have a guitar that actually Bob used, and it's one of the only guitars he's used in the last 5 years. So we got Sarah Rogo's DNA on it, we got Bob's DNA, and then Lemmo came over with a guilty face and put his DNA on it. So
there's a lot of DNA on it.
But there's a lot of DNA on there, but it says here, this Gibson ES-225 with the serial number was loaned to Bob Dylan from Norm's Rare Guitars. It was played at the Capitol Theater, Port Chester, New York on June 14th, 2017. What makes this guitar very unusual was that Bob had not played guitar on stage in several years prior to this gig. Bob has mainly been seen playing piano on gigs in recent years. Bob played guitar on the second song of the show, To Ramona is the name of the tune, authenticated by Jeff Kramer, OK Management. So sometimes it's smart to sell a guitar, sometimes it's smart not to sell a guitar. In this particular case, I think I made the right
You're going to
move.
give it to me, right?
I was not going to give it to you, but I was going to let you play it. And Lemmo, especially you know, with the guilty face.
I'm here to pick it up.
Oh, play it, Lemmo, go.
No way, no way.
Pretty cool. Hey, listen, now that you put a little.
Now you gotta
of your hand, play a little.
Play
bit
a little bit. Yeah, hurry.
Yeah,
Hurry.
just do it quick. I don't know what you're going to play, but.
Okay. All right. That wasn't
Like
the
a Rolling
intention.
Stone.
No, can't do that. If anybody, it should be Todd. Todd knows all the Dylan tricks.
Totally Todd. We don't have his DNA on it yet.
It's too much DNA.
It's true.
All right,
right.
so you heard it. The I'm Not Guilty Lemmo,
Yeah.
Sarah Rogo, and Norm over here, and that is a guitar that actually was not owned by Bob, but it was borrowed and used by Bob at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York. ES-225.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.